would do. The Extreme Air XA41, a German design at the very forefront of competition aerobatics. And there you get to see a bit of the aircraft's rate of roll. It has a rate of roll of 450 degrees a second, ably demonstrated by Gerald throughout this routine. It might not surprise you to learn that the aircraft was the brainchild of a man who was a very competent, still is a very competent aerobatic competitive pilot himself, the German engineer and pilot Philipp Steinbach. Of course, the aircraft very, very light indeed, a carbon fibre construction, and it affords a tremendous power to weight ratio. There we see a bit of that as Gerald pulls up to almost hang the aircraft on the propeller as best he can. I expect we'll see more of that later in the display. And there indeed, almost hovering, the XA41. Such is the power of the Lycoming AEIO 540 miles an hour. A good bit of cross control there, side slipping down the display line. Gerald himself has amassed over 8,000 flying hours over the last 20 or so years. He started his competitive aerobatic flying career in the year 2000, and since then he's won many medals and trophies in different levels of competition.
I reckon he wants his carburetor cleaning out. Come on in. Come on in. Yeah, can hear.
And the rather more violent aerobatic figures, indeed he says of the aircraft that when unleashed it transforms from a comfortable and capable tourer to a no-holds-barred cage fighter, capable of anything.
I want to see you.
Don't you start your whistle.
Oh,
Splendid fashion here. Should you wish to go flying in one of these aircraft yourself, or even if you're a private pilot wishing to get some tail dragger experience on a classic machine, then Fly 365 at Wickenby offers its services in this and I believe another Tiger Moth. The man at the controls of this one, David's sister, is a former Royal Air Force fighter pilot. Amongst other types, he flew the McDonnell Douglas Phantom. Tiger Moths like this, airworthy around the UK. Indeed, it's still possible to go through your private pilot's licence training in a Tiger Moth. The Cambridge Flying Group offers exactly that. An opportunity there to train in the way pilots would have done in the 1930s and 40s. About 138 or so miles an hour. In fact, when it first appeared in the early post-war years, orders were initially a bit slow to pick up because there were a lot of surplus wartime trainers like Tiger Moths on the market. A lot of governments, of course, didn't have a great deal of money after 6 years of war with which to buy new aeroplanes, and the Chipmunk had a rather undeserved bad reputation in its early years for being a bit of a little beast when it got into a spin. But that was soon seen to be untrue, and the orders really picked up, not least with the Royal Air Force, which ended up flying 735 of these aeroplanes. That out of a complete production run of 1,280 units. Pulling up there for a stall turn. Once again, a rather more gentle affair of aerobatics than we saw from Gerald Cooper.
I'll put him in the book in there.
Of course, Britain had taken the lead in the development of the gas turbine or jet engine, thanks to the efforts of Frank Whittle and his company Powerjets. But due to a degree of official intransigence, we managed to lose that lead, and the Germans were the first to fly a jet aeroplane, the Heinkel XH558, in 1939, almost 2 years before the Gloster E28-39 test aircraft took to the air. Proved the concept, and the Gloster Aircraft Company developed a fighter to take advantage of the new technology, and the result was the Meteor, which first flew in 1943, came into RAF service the following year, and although by the time the Meteor was deployed into newly liberated Europe later in 1944, the German aerial threat was somewhat diminished. They still have an important role to play. And that was in helping combat the menace of the V1 flying bombs, the so-called doodlebugs. The high speed of the jet-powered Meteor made it ideal for that kind of work. But the Meteor found its niche in Korea.
See it coming.
As the B17 passes by, a quick visitor announcement, if I may. Could I remind you, please, for those of you who are in front of the railings along the seafront here, to please remain solely on the dry area of sand and not to go onto the damp areas of sand or indeed out into the water, please, because we do have to obey certain limitations with regard to the display line, and there is an area in which people are not allowed to go. So please do, for your own safety and that of all of the participants in today's show, please stick to the dry sand areas of the beach. Thank you. Well, here is the B-17 Flying Fortress taking centre stage in front of us and doing so majestically. See the bomb bay coming open on that orbit. A much smaller bomb bay than that of the RAF's Avro Lancaster, but nonetheless this aircraft could pack a considerable punch. The first prototype B-17 took to the air 80 years ago this year on the 28th of July 1935. Only about 150 of them were in service with the then US Army Air Corps, later the Army Air Force, by the time America entered World War II following the Pearl Harbor attack of December 1941.
That's great. Time cautious.
3:30.
From all of that, you must be very substantial indeed. The members, their numbers running into the many thousands of the Sally B Supporters Club, have done a great deal to assist in that operation. Another view of the aircraft with bomb doors open here. A country that was not their own. To the members of the Sally B Supporters Club. pace of aircraft development in the 1930s was extremely rapid, and some of it was spurred on by the building of new aeroplanes for the burgeoning market in executive travel. And this aircraft, rather incredibly, has its origins in just such an aeroplane. It was developed as a private venture on behalf of Lord Rothermere, the owner of the Daily Mail. Rothermere presented the aircraft to the nation under the name of Britain First, and it attracted a great deal of interest from the Air Ministry because it was faster than a lot of the contemporary frontline types of the day, which were of course biplanes. The first example had flown in April 1935. The decision was taken to adapt it as a new light bomber, and that took to the air as the Blenheim Mark I in June of '36. To give you an example of what an advance the Blenheim represented, the first ones went into service with number 114 Squadron at RAF Whitton near Huntingdon in March 1937, where they replaced the Hawker Hind biplane bomber. The top speed of the Hind was 186 miles an hour, the Blenheim's maximum speed 260 miles an hour. This was an aircraft well placed as war clouds began to gather in Europe, so it seemed. The losses suffered on that mission were grievous, which to some extent set the tone for what was to follow. It showed the further pace of aircraft development, that now the Blenheim, that just a few years before had been seen as an extremely rapid machine, was now vulnerable to Luftwaffe fighters. But Blenheim crews of all the commands that operated it throughout the world during the Second World War fought on heroically. Fighter Blenheims like this one used their guns to attack a German seaplane base at Borkum on the 28th of November 1939. Vulcan to the Sky Trust. This, the Avro Vulcan B2. There, a first chance to hear the noise of the aircraft's four Rolls-Royce Bristol Olympus 202 turbojet engines of over 16,000 pounds of thrust each. 136 of these aircraft, including the prototypes, were built. Now only one is flying, and as you may have read or seen recently, it's in its last display season because XH558 will sadly be grounded at the end of this year. There will never, I'm sure, be another Vulcan in flying condition once that happens. A slower orbit this time. You can see the air brakes have been deployed. Of course, as part of Britain's nuclear deterrent during the Cold War that the Vulcan initially operated. The aircraft came into RAF service in 1956, and alongside the Handley Page Victor and the Vickers Valiant, it formed what was known as the Cleethorpes. For the Vulcan in the strike role, there was one last hurrah to come. Of course, the day had never come when, during the Cold War, it was called upon to perform the nuclear or indeed conventional strike role. But the Vulcans were called to arms one last time in 1982 in the Falklands War. Was the code name applied to the raids undertaken by the Vulcans, supported by Victor tankers out in the South Atlantic. The most famous of those, surely that on the 30th of April 1982, when the Vulcan serial XM607, today preserved outside at RAF Waddington, was supported by no fewer than 11 Victors in a remarkable mission whereby it hit the runway at Port Stanley Airfield, the centre line that is, with one bomb, and the edge of the runway with another, making it unusable for Argentine fast jets. At that time it was the longest bombing raid in history, a round trip of over 7,700 miles. Today is Bill Perrins, who took part in 4 of the Black Buck raids. Today's crew is the Air Electronics Officer, Phil Davies. The story of how XH558, this aircraft, was returned to flight is truly a remarkable one. I know we've used that term in recognition of a number of aircraft today, but it's certainly very apposite in relation to the Vulcan. This was the first ever Vulcan B2 to enter RAF service. It's 55 years old this year. It made its maiden flight on the 25th of May 1960. And in RAF service with the Vulcan display flight, it gave its final displays, or so it was thought, at the end of the 1992 season, and made its final flight into Bruntingthorpe in early 1993. Many people said it could never happen, that it would return to the skies. But many people, notably David Walton, who bought the aircraft and all of its available spares, and Dr. Robert Fleming of Vulcan to the Sky, thought otherwise. This is the result of its final pass. a suitably steep wing over to finish. It's still a very expensive undertaking, of course, to keep the aircraft in the air, even to the end of this, its final display season. It's the three technical authority companies, as they're known, that have brought about this change of circumstances, as it were. They have decided to cease their support at the end of the 2015 season, and without that support, under the Civil Aviation Authority's regulations, the Vulcan will therefore be prohibited from flying.
Do it to life,
If you've got a camera or binoculars or just very good eyesight, you might be able to see the dual rescue hoists on the front of the aircraft, just behind the cockpit windows, the rescue hoists made by the Goodrich firm. And just visible below the nose is the L3 Westcam camera equipment for the aircraft's forward-looking infrared and TV sensor.
No, it's not.
So the winch has now been deployed. And a very good demonstration here of the close cooperation between the search and rescue helicopter fleet and the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. You may be able to see the winchman now descending towards the lifeboat, ready to assist the survivor on board.
Walking down there then?
initial manoeuvre of their display. After that initial loop, into a quarter cloverleaf manoeuvre, turning away from us at the top and pulling through. Pulling up and repositioning into a wing over to the left. The three Yak 50s in this formation, representatives of one of what was at the time it appeared in the 1970s one of the most competitive competition aerobatic aircraft in the world. It caused quite a stir when it first appeared at the World Aerobatic Championships. Smoke back on now as they position for a barrel roll. Although in fact that looked rather more like a loop. The smoke trail produced by injecting an oil into the exhaust. The injected oil vaporizes to produce the smoke effect. In fact, instead of the car diesel that used to be used, they now employ an environmentally friendly substitute. And the smoke, the team says, is whiter, cleaner and better. Up into another of those quarter clover manoeuvres.
Be back.
Leading the team today is Jez Hopkinson. Formation pair. That's Yak lead and Yak 2. Jez Hopkinson and Azat Zaidulin. Give us some close formation aerobatics. Out of that loop into a quarter clover leaf. In Nick's case, he's a successful author as well as a private and display pilot. And now here are Yaks 1, 2 and 3 in from our right to create a tunnel of smoke for Yak 4 to fly through. Nick pulling up straight away and diving down to rejoin his teammates. Sold on the civilian market, but still used in a number of countries for flying training. Well, you can see now the four-ship formation is back together. While they are coming in for another break, the show is still far from over. BB16.
Madison, don't go there, you're getting your eye. Look at him, look. You can see this is a very diminutive little aircraft indeed. In fact, it was initially designed as a lightweight fighter to meet an RAF operational requirement. The result was an aircraft under the rather unprepossessing name of the Midge, which was subsequently developed into the larger Gnat. The RAF didn't pursue that, but Finland, India and Yugoslavia all procured examples of the Gnat and its fighter guys. And Indian Air Force Gnat fighters famously served in the Indo-Pakistan Wars of 1965 and 71, scoring several kills of Pakistan Air Force F-86 Sabre jet fighters. But the Gnat got the interest of the RAF rather more successfully in meeting the need for an advanced jet trainer to bridge the gap between the de Havilland owns the aeroplanes, which are operated by the Gnat display team, and they really do conjure up something of the days when the Gnat was the mount of some very famous RAF aerobatic teams, firstly the Yellow Jacks and then the Red Arrows. Bread and butter, of course, was pilot training, and during the type's service career, which lasted from February 1961 until November 1978, Gnats trained over 1,400 RAF fast jet pilots. As you can see, is a little design, a very close coupled airframe, an exciting one to fly. The aircraft's small size, something of a difficulty for taller pilots.
Good job, skateboard! That's nothing! Boy, if that camera won't work. Fix it? No, I can't. If I do it upside down? Because that's where the sound goes. That's the shut up, Laura.
In Anglesey in 1964, they had a 5-ship formation of the instructors from that base. But the air officer commanding what was then Royal Air Force Training Command was reportedly not keen on the aircraft's colour nor the team name, so a change was made. So now we see one of the Gnats rolling round the other's smoke. Flying training school at RAF Valley, the type's main operator. 3 different colour schemes on the aircraft. I've already mentioned the yellow one, representing the Yellow Jacks. The third aeroplane is in the markings of the Red Arrows from 1967. The Gnat display team plans to expand still further. They have bought from America a single-seat Gnat F1 fighter, and will add that services for a gliding instructor, a highly experienced fighter pilot who flew the Lightning, the Phantom and the Tornado F3 in his active service days. Today displays a variety of historic aircraft for the Shuttleworth collection at Old Warden in Bedfordshire, and other vintage jets, including a Hunter. Been trained by the RAF, and they've really been instrumental in getting this team together to hark back somewhat to the great days of the Red Arrows in the 1960s and 70s, because it was for the 1980 season that the team transitioned on to the Hawk, which it still operates today. So there they are, positioning in front of us one last time, the smoke going on, and getting ready for a break. And that was the Gnat display team.